I know you wrote quite a bit about Odell Beckham Jr. What do you expect him to do in this offense, and how do you see Kevin Stefanski using him?
Yeah, it's a fun question. For coming on now 2 seasons, the question of how are the Browns going to use Odell Beckham Jr.? How does he fit in Cleveland? Over here, all this talk about his chemistry with Baker Mayfield. And I think the Thursday night win against Cincinnati at home was exactly what we're going to get out of Odell Beckham Jr. That's the stat line. 4 catches, somewhere between 60, 70 yards. If the big one, another one hits and he doesn't get held there, you're talking about a 100-yard game, 2-touchdown performance. But it's the way that Odell gets those yards. I wrote about how Stephon Diggs in Minnesota had a 42% share of his team's air yards, meaning that when the ball went deep, there was a 42% chance it was headed to Stephon Diggs because that's where the bulk of his yardage came from. And right now, Odell Beckham Jr. sits at about 48%. The sample size is small with 2, but he'll probably stay in that high 40s area because that is what Kevin Stefanski demands out of his outside receiver. In New York, he ran a lot of slants, some quick screens, that quick-hitting game, and that's still in Stefanski's offense. But for him to marry the run to the pass the way he wants to, he needs wide receivers to take their DBs and safeties downfield to not only open up running lanes, but also open up underneath passes for guys like Austin Hooper, Harrison Bryant, and even Kareem Hunt coming out of the backfield. So Browns fans who want the Odell of 100-plus catches or 100-plus yard games and multiple touchdowns, that's not the Odell you're going to see. You're going to see the type of player you got Thursday. He's going to be used sparingly. He's going to be used opportunistically. And ultimately, he is a very key ingredient in this offense, but he's not the complete cake. Without him, this offense would struggle because that threat remains. But the way Odell affects this Browns offense, it's stuff that doesn't show up on a box score. And I know that's not exciting for fantasy football owners and probably not all that exciting for Odell Beckham Jr. himself. But that's the role in this offense, and that's how Stefanski maximizes ultimately what he's trying to do.
And we've heard both Jarvis Landry and Odell in the segment before this say they understand that, they're fine with that, they want to win. Are you buying that? Do you truly believe that's the way they feel? Or when you're sitting in week 4 or 5 with 15, 20 catches, is that going to become an issue, do you think?
Yeah, so I've been floating this formula. To keep a receiver happy, they need 3 things. They need yards, they need touchdowns, and they need wins. All right, well, if Beckham can get his yards through the air, he'll have those yards. If the Browns can win some games, he'll have his wins. The touchdowns, I don't see that happening. Stephon Diggs had 5 red zone targets last year, just 5. He caught 1 of them. On Thursday, we saw Odell and Baker try to hook up the end zone, and it really could have been a time jump back to 2019 because it looked like they just still didn't have a red zone connection. So the Odell Beckham touchdowns aren't going to be there. Where I'm going with this is Stephon Diggs left Minnesota this offseason. He was traded for a ransom of picks, and now he's leading the league in receiving in Buffalo and what looks like a MVP candidate in Josh Allen. So will it work for this season? Yes, it will. The Vikings got to the playoffs, won a game, and then lost in the divisional round against the Saints. I don't know if that's where this Browns team's headed, but if they can stay in contention, win games, and flirt with that, one of those lower playoff spots, then this will be a happy Odell Beckham Jr. for now and Jarvis Landry. But you can see where things can go south quickly because when they're not getting the ball, that's at the sacrifice for the betterment of the team to win the game. Now, if they're not winning the game, these 2 playmakers are going to want the ball in their hands. It's really that simple. The results have to happen first, and the good soldiers will fall in line. If they string up a couple losses before the bye week and that tough stretch they have, now we're talking a little more dicey situation. Win the football games, and these players will fit Kevin Stefanski's offense. If they don't, you're going to see that wide receiver showman, we need the ball, come out a little more. It's just natural wide receiver behavior. It's how these superstars think and how they operate, and they get paid to do so.
Well, and the other thing is winning cures a lot of ills. You win a lot, not much bothers you.